Hi, everyone. Welcome to the OnPoint podcast. Today, I had the chance to speak with my friend Justin Kulovsek. Justin is currently helping Amgen with their omni-channel strategy and has experience doing this for medical affairs. We discussed what omni-channel is, its place within medical affairs as opposed to commercial, and how to engage your target audience, the HCPs that you need to reach using these omni-channel technologies. I'm really excited to share this with you. I think you're going to love it.
Welcome to OnPoint, the medical excellence podcast where we talk to pharma leaders about how to build highly effective medical affairs organizations. Welcome to the OnPoint podcast for medical excellence. For those, again, that I haven't met, my name is Scott, and I am so excited for today's session on omni-channel strategies for medical affairs. Stop overcomplicating it. And I have got an amazing guest for you today. His name is Justin Kulovsek. Justin is an omni-channel consultant. He has been working with some top brands to help drive awareness of the science, engage audiences, and really help elevate the game. Justin was the first one on this omni-channel team you're about to hear about to raise their hand when medical affairs came knocking saying, we want an omni-channel strategy. I am so excited for the award-winning Justin Kulovsek. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Scott, thanks so much for having me, and grateful to be here, and look forward to helping people with Omnichannel.
I am so excited for this session. You're going to learn a lot today, everyone. So buckle up, pull out something to take some notes. Here we go. First, you need to know who Justin is. So I met Justin working with Horizon, now Amgen, where we were brought in to help with a digital strategy. And there was a team already in-house doing Omnichannel. And when medical affairs came knocking, they said, well, who wants to help medical? And everybody kind of sat there except for Justin saying, hey, I got this. Justin, tell us kind of how you got to that point. What brought you into Omnichannel? What brought you to pharma? And how'd you end up working with medical affairs?
Well, I won't take too much time because we'd be here for a whole hour with just how I got into pharma, but actually got started off on the agency side. So really learned the tools of the trade, if you will, and then went into more on the pharmaceutical side of things. But realistically, my omni-channel journey started actually more on the commercial, very much on the consumer side of things, meaning in the entertainment industry, media industry, places like that, and then used those learnings, those key insights, and actually leveraged them into the pharmaceutical industry. So I have been told at times some of my approaches might be a little unorthodox, if you will, but at the same time, people definitely, I have a good track record of helping people with Omnichannel and developing those strategies.
Awesome. Well, I am so looking forward to helping pull that out, share that with everybody. So here's the thing. Before we get into some strategies, I hate to say it, but I think we still need to define what omnichannel is for everyone, right? Because different companies, different teams are kind of at different understandings and they define it differently. So let's start there. How would you define omnichannel for our audience?
Yeah. So Scott, the first thing I would say is omnichannel, and the definition of omnichannel is one that has a lot of head scratching a lot of the time. I will say that already everyone that's listening to this is actually part of omni-channel communications at some point. Most of us throughout our week, we're on Amazon or Facebook or different websites. And so that's really part of that omni-channel experience. When you go on Amazon and you click on an item, and then it pretty much, that message follows you everywhere you go. I guess you could say more of a clinical description or definition would be, omni-channel is really a seamless experience across multi-channel. So whether that be web, TV, podcasts, it could be email, but we also make sure that it is consistent and that the message is personalized interactions. And that really is regardless of the platform or the device that people are on. So if you're on a desktop, you should be getting the same type of experience that you're getting on a mobile device. If you're on social media, that same message you're getting there, you should also be getting within your emails. So hopefully that gives you a nice little definition there.
Absolutely. And of course, through live interactions, right? So
A-
as you're talking
Absolutely.
live with your HCPs, how does that tie back into a more consistent experience? And Justin, one of the things you and I got to talk to some folks about when we were down at the MSL Society event
Mhm.
is a lot of that sounds very commercial. So maybe we should just knock that out right now before people start hanging up. Like it sounds commercial. How does this apply to medical affairs then?
Yeah, I mean, I think it still is all marketing. It is still you are increasing the awareness of your brand. If it's in the pharma space, it could be, especially on the medical side, it could be on a disease state, for example. But again, in the end, it's all about marketing. That's
Hmm.
really what this is and what we're here. And it's not about a specific tool, but it's about the content.
Yeah, no, Justin, I think you and I were at a meeting once, and the medical team was a little bit nervous about kind of taking on the use of these tools, and we landed a really important point that medical and marketing use the same tools all the time, right? You both use PowerPoint, you both use CRM, you both use email, and then it's about what you put on the slide or what you send in the email or what you're capture in the CRM that's different that makes it applicable. So I think that people need to not be nervous about the fact that it might be a marketing tool and make sure that we really focus on what do you use that tool for that's within the purview and the compliant actions of medical affairs.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Scott. Absolutely.
Right. So maybe I think something that might be a really powerful thing for the audience is to just walk through maybe two or three core principles of omnichannel. Like if we were going to start, where would we start? And then let's do some examples together because I think that would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the first thing and what I say to every client or brand that I work on, it really it's all about two things. It's who's your target audience and what do you want them to do?
Okay.
And so in a lot of cases, I'd even put this on you, Scott, who is that target audience for medical and what would you want those people to do? Kind of course, within that compliant purview of medical affairs. I think that would be that's the start for what we're really talking about. And in a lot of cases, it can be that easy.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier, stop overcomplicating it. Marketing does not have to be hard. It can be super easy, and sometimes the best campaigns and the best strategies that are put together are sometimes the easiest. So I think
Okay.
that would be, for me, that's always the starting point where people say, I don't know where to get started. I think this is going to be a huge investment or something.
Mm.
And I go, hang on. We have to first ask two questions. Who's our audience? What do we want them to do?
Maybe
Start.
give a couple of examples then. So if I'm in medical affairs, there's several segments, groups of people. I'll give you some examples. So for example, key opinion leaders, KOLs, right? We in medical affairs want them to be aware of and engage in our research. We want them to be aware of it so they can reference it from podium or as they're having expert level conversations. So and then we want advocacy. We want people to remember our latest science so that it becomes something that's part of these KOLs conversations. So I think that might be one. Another could be that HCPs, right? So kind of the community practitioner, the people who are seeing a lot of patients. We want them to learn. We want them to engage with our educational programs, whether those programs are in person, they could be webinars, it could be our portal with all that great disease state, scientific material in it. So that's definitely one. Another could be digital opinion leaders, right? We want kind of the DOLs, those HCPs online that are talking about science to be aware of and to kind of take some of the scientific learning from our narrative and share that with a much broader audience. So there's others. Increasing trial enrollment might be some medical teams focus. So I think there's a lot there. What do you think? Is that kind of down the right path as a start?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, right there, you told me, hey, this is who we're targeting. This is the message we're trying to get out to them or what we want them to do. In our case, it might be to, hey, click on a link. It might be to attend an event, to attend an in-person event. And I think, Scott, you brought that up. It's really good. We get so wrapped up, and I find myself doing the exact same thing where we will automatically say omnichannel is digital only. And omnichannel can be outdoor. It can be large banner, on the side of the highway, even whatever it might be. But it could also be, hey, come to this event. Part of that omni-channel messaging can also be, hey, we are actually going in and we're inviting you to a speaker bureau or something like this, speaker forum. And then from there, we're actually continuing that message and continuing to have those different touch points throughout that journey.
Okay. So you said something that's really important. It's actually in the title of our session, that medical affairs is often overcomplicating this, right? So step one is to really talk about who are we trying to get a message to and what do we want them to do as a result. Why is this seem so complicated for especially medical affairs?
I think number one, right away, people automatically they hear omni-channel. You said it earlier, where people are automatically they hear omni-channel, and that is commercial. That is the commercial side of things. We have to steer clear of it. Number two, I think people forget that even within the medical affairs side of the house, we're still doing marketing. We are still getting a message out to people. Again, marketing is that it's getting that message out, and I can't stress that enough. So I think that's one reason. I think also we get hung up on, do I have the right tools? Do I have the right pieces here? And a lot of the times, the organizations actually already have everything they need. It might not be in the correct order at this point, or it might not be the right structure, or they might not have the process in place. So a lot of the times it really is, it's a baby step approach. With digital maturity, like a lot of the times, a lot of digital experts will say, where's an organization in their digital maturity, kind of a crawl, walk, run situation. And most people, when they first start off, they're almost a little embarrassed to say where they are. But I hate to tell you, almost every single we all start by crawling. And most organizations are still right there. So many cases we have to remember too, it's not trying to do everything all at once as well.
Yeah, I think soon after the Medical Affairs Professional Society meeting, we had a conversation. And one of the things I'm observing across many of our clients that are trying to do omnichannel is that they're approaching it as a revolution to medical affairs. Like, we're going to be a completely different organization after I implement this next month. And that doesn't seem to actually be healthy. It doesn't actually seem to work. And instead, what you and I were talking about, which I liked, was, look, just pick one problem, one thing you're trying to accomplish, and use these tools and capabilities to accomplish that, and then stop.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, that is, it truly is. It's, everyone wants to overcomplicate it. Everyone also thinks you need this gigantic budget to get started. And in a lot of cases, yes, you will need investment into this if you're going to actually make a splash in this area. But realistically, your organization probably has the tools already in place. And yes, again, we might be concerned that we're starting to go over to a commercial side. But again, we all use email, don't we? We, like you said, we all use PowerPoint. These are all tools that are available also to the medical affairs side of the house.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Let's drill into a couple of examples. I'll throw out an example, and maybe we can design an omni-channel solution to it using tools that people are probably aware of and processes. So let's just talk through them. And then we'll go back and say, okay, well, what has to be in place to get started?
Sure.
Okay. So let's pick the first one. Let's say I want to use an omni-channel strategy. I come to you and say, hey, you know what, Justin? One of the things that we're struggling with is attendance at MSL-led medical education programs. So I want to increase attendance, especially for those with the biggest knowledge and awareness gaps.
So, yeah, Scott, again, the first place I would start is, who are we targeting? We know that we're targeting, in this case, we're targeting HCPs for attendance.
Okay.
And we know the issue is you're having low attendance on this. So how can we do this? We could start off by, of course, in Omnichannel, we put the HCP in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And we make sure then that we are utilizing all types of media to engage them. And so in this case, I would say something like, first off, make sure that you're not just sending out generalized emails. Make sure that they're personalized. They might be tailored to their specialty. They might have a special subject line based on not only, the title of the program, but also how it relates specifically to their specialty.
Okay.
And then we utilize that message on other places like social media, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. One thing I always like to say as well, HCPs, of course, are people too. So they are on those same platforms like Facebook, Instagram, places like that, LinkedIn professionally. But then also let's look and see if there's also other places. Could we go to some HCP specific sites like Sermo or Doximity? So some of these, of course, you will need some funding to actually get that message out there. It can't all be grassroots, but again, these are all media drivers that can go to that program.
Okay.
The other nice thing, of course, and one of the great things with digital, you are able to track that and you have metrics showing that you are actually getting engagement on email. Or you test it and you throw some money towards an advertisement about a medical program on LinkedIn, and you see that you are you are getting clicks. And if that's the case, maybe that's the place that you continue to go. So it really is, there's no perfect science, but again, once you know who your target is and you know how they like to interact. I was doing a project the other day. I'm going to go off on a little tangent here for a second, but doing a project the other day and found out that for same exact disease state, we were targeting two different types of HCPs. Well, one HCP loves podcasts, and other market research says this other one doesn't like it at all. They actually still like print journals. And so maybe that's more the place we need to be doing, more education within that print journal for that demographic. So it really is knowing and having that market research done. And I think that's another place where there's so much information already out there regarding different specialties. But also, you might have an in-house market research team or firm, consulting group that could also help you and engage and say, hey, have you thought about this is actually who you should be targeting? So just some quick things there to think about.
You're using the word target. How specific can you get? So like, let's say in this example of education programs, we asked all of the MSLs, hey, over the next 2 months, I want you to assess the knowledge gaps of the HCPs in your territory and choose in your CRM specific knowledge gaps that somebody has. And let's say we find that the biggest knowledge gap is about disease management or this particular unmet need or special population or whatever it is. And we find out that the majority of the people with that knowledge gap are in the Chicago market. And so we decide we're going to do a program in Chicago targeting those people that we said, wow, these guys really showed or expressed that they don't have a lot of information or they need more information about that gap. I have that list now in my CRM because I had everybody check it off.
Sure.
Now what?
Yeah. So I think next it would be making sure that you're tailoring and customizing that content. So again, making sure people know that this is, the location for this is going to be in Chicago, or maybe it's virtual, but maybe again, that background even has something to do with Chicago. Maybe that again, to make people more engaged with, let's say, an email as the first start. But then realistically, it's tailoring that content and making sure that we're utilizing where, we would be able to say, here's a target group. I only want to send it to these people. You could also, very easily, if you had a larger target audience and said, hey, I want to target this with, if you're in Chicago, I want to make sure it says, hey, Chicago, HCPs, hey, doctors in Chicago. And maybe there's one for Detroit. and you say the same thing. Again, the more personalization that you're able to do within omni-channel strategies, the more engagement you are going to see. And so if you're able to set up your data that way, you can customize and personalize that content. And, you can get extremely advanced with this. And sometimes the more advanced that you get, of course, costs go up. You're doing different programs online, tailoring things specific. But again, it really, in the end, you want people to see an email or a banner ad or something and say, wow, that was tailored to me. Again, we see it every day. You go on Amazon, you click on something, or you haven't added it to your cart yet, and you start seeing it everywhere you go.
Everywhere I
Just
go.
imagine if you were able to do that for your medical affairs programs.
Got it. So let's take another example. So let's talk about broad awareness of a key scientific topic. Right. So let's say there's kind of this new novel MOA that we're trying to increase awareness to thought leaders. What are all the tools that I could choose to use, and why would I use each one? So you've said some. I'll just maybe share some, and then you can add to it. So clearly, we can use CRM to capture that there is a particular need, and we can also send triggers to an MSL as part of a sequence to take an action. So that's one. You had mentioned email, right? So when would you choose to add email to a sequence?
So to me, again, your email, anytime you're going to have an email, it better have a call to action in it. So click here to drive to information on this MOA, for example, or maybe it's click here to sign up to attend, a virtual program on the MOA. So that would be one place, one start that I would go for something like email. And again, make sure that you're tailoring it. Make sure that you're engaging with this. The other thing too is make sure that it's a simple message. And I know that's not always easy, especially within the scientific fields and medical, to make something simple. But again, the average attention span these days, unfortunately, is about 6 seconds. And so it might even just be, hey, someone is only going to see the subject line. Or they might click on it. And again, if you are too graphic heavy, if you have too many graphics in that email, it's going to take too long to load. They might just click delete. So always keep that in mind. You want simple, basic, in your face marketing where it's just, hey, this is what we're doing. Click here to learn more. So that's always, kind of one stop would be for, with email, what I would do.
Okay. And you had also mentioned placements, right? Whether it's in a social media or on a website, a medical society website. How do you go about leveraging that?
Yeah, so I think first off is then know what message is right for where. So again, you don't want to do something way too clinical on a site like Facebook, because that HCP, for example, they're on Facebook, they're scrolling through, seeing what their friends from 10 years ago are doing, or what family did this past weekend, and looking at photos and stuff. But then something catches their eye, and it's and again, it should be a touch point. So again, it should always be that omni-channel approach where that same message that you have in that email potentially that they received, they're seeing that same message. Don't forget to sign up. Don't forget about these things. Click here to learn more information. So again, from that social perspective, you're going to be doing that. And that would be more on your kind of public, you could say, social media platform. So your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your Instagram, so on. But again, knowing the message, you might be able to get a little more clinical on LinkedIn, because then that they're probably coming to LinkedIn to be a little more professional than to check their personal account. But then you do also have those kind of closed off HCP only social sites as well, that a lot of people go to and interact with as well. Again, like a Sermo, where they could go and they could be placing content. Your organization could place content on there, and and whether that be short form or long form. It could also be a video preview of something. So, again, making sure the message is consistent, but also that it's on all these different platforms for that HCP.
So how much is overdoing it, right? Do you think that medical affairs could, push the message, whatever that one thing is, too much?
I think, and this is what I always say, I said it earlier too, like start small, start basic, maybe start with one or two tactics instead of trying to do, an omni-channel approach with 12 different tactics all around it. Maybe start with two, maybe start with 3 or 4. So that's something I would say. Overdoing it, however, none of us like, and we have all been a part of it, where all of a sudden that same Amazon item is following you on every single page. So again, I think it's knowing your audience, knowing maybe when you think might be too much. Some of this you're also going to get from understanding metrics. You're going to see, hey, did this post it? I have posted things on LinkedIn and been blown away that, oh my God, I had, 5,000 impressions on it. I've also posted really great content on LinkedIn, and I've also got like 100 people to like it.
Right.
But again, you have to sit there and say, was it the message? Was it the time of day? Was it, kind of going down the list? Again, you also have to think about, for the different type of media that you're using, what is the right time of day? So if you are putting something more on Facebook, I bet a lot of HCPs, I'm making assumptions here, aren't just sitting there in the middle of the day on Facebook, but they might be doing it more at night. Also, make sure, what time are you timing these different emails to go out? Should they be going out at 9 o'clock in the morning, or are they better off at night? And again, a lot of market research you can find about this. Sometimes your CRM might also say, this is based on the time that HCP with NPI number blank says, this is the time they open your emails.
Okay.
And so you can also tailor things specific to those times as well. Something to always think about.
That's amazing. I'd love your thoughts on, we had some MSLs express that they're nervous about Omnichannel because it'll become a competitor to them, right? That if we start providing content, the MSL doesn't have the opportunity to engage on that content. What have you seen? And does that actually play out that way?
I totally disagree with that. I think that the MSL is actually part of that omni-channel experience. And so again, if you go into your CRM system and you're typing in, you're going to go and see this HCP. And if you have down that on the medical side, they have opened your email, they clicked on a link, they have attended something in the past. This is all your background. This is the info that you need. This is, who are you targeting? And, again, the more information you know about them, the better. And so in a lot of cases, it should, instead of seeing it as, as something that can be a competitor to an MSL, it should actually be the opposite. It should be, these are tools that are helping you continue that message. And in the end, let's always remember, what is this going to be about? It's going to be about educating HCPs. And in the end, it's going to be about helping patients. That is what we're all here to do. And I think as long as we always have that kind of North Star, that all of us, whether it would be on the medical affairs side or on a commercial side, everyone has that same North Star, and that is helping patients. That's truly what it is.
That is
And I
awesome.
think once we continue and remember that and say, yeah, we have to have that firewall, we have to have that separation, if you will. However, the same tools used on the commercial side could very easily be used on medical affairs.
So, Justin, I know you and I got to work with a team that was really, really excited to start using digital communications and have omni-channel relationships, and they were really excited about it. But when we got there and started to have a conversation, we found that there were some basics that just weren't there. So let's maybe just talk about some of the basics. Like, what do you need in place before you can start to enable more of a connected, integrated journey for a KOL engagement?
So I think step one is just first doing a complete analysis, kind of a digital analysis of where your data is. Is it actually in the right order? Are you doing things? Do you actually have a CRM that also has name and name, email address, phone number, location? I think I always say to people, at the bare minimum, you want name, email, and zip code, because there's a lot of info right there that you can pull from. The more information, maybe that's a touch point in the future of saying, hey, we'd love to engage with you more, or if you'd like to engage with us more, click here. And when they do that, maybe they're asked, hey, tell us your specialty, tell us this. And of course, we are fortunate within the pharma industry that there is so much data out there.
Right.
And we do have database that we can leverage for specialties and NPI numbers and such.
Yep.
But really it's having that foundation and making sure that you have clean data, that that your data is ready to go.
Yep.
And sometimes that's the biggest challenge, is that sometimes can also be one of the biggest costs. Sometimes if people don't have their data and they don't have things set up correctly, we can run into that issue of, okay, we actually can't send an email out because we don't have things set up right.
Yeah. I can tell you, like, there's been so many times I started working on a CRM project and the data is just missing. It's not there. And so I guess starting with the cleanup, making sure that you have good data. If you are going to be as targeted as some of the examples you gave, we actually have to know those segments, right? Is this person a data generator? Is this a thought leader that you're trying to achieve? Do they see a lot of patients and hence you're targeting HCP education? So anything around segments helpful. And then you start even talking about like things like preferences. If we know them and we know this person really likes journals, or hey, this person keeps asking about video content, it seems like the more we have, the more we can personalize.
Absolutely. Just did a small project where we went through and said, we have phone numbers here, we have mobile numbers here. Should we be texting these people? And so, of course, there's also a fine line with some legal issues there too, of saying like, hey, we got to be careful here. But so instead we said, why don't we start off by saying to people, here's an email. And in that email, it said, hey, how do you want us to engage with you? And would you mind, and click here if you want to also accept that you can be targeted or,
Love it.
contacted via text. And that also allowed for that type of engagement. And I think that, again, 10 years ago, people would have probably said, no, I don't want to. But today, a lot of people are like, yeah, I would love to just have a text saying, here's a reminder. Don't forget that you signed up for that live.
So that's the whole concept of consent in general, especially as you start working, more globally. Really ensuring consent is in place, that you've got permission to engage in more automated ways, I think is going to be really important. And most of the big CRMs have a consent management tool built into it.
Sure.
You just have to make sure it's set up properly so you don't accidentally say, I opt out of all communications. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That. And then tell me a little bit about content, right? In medical affairs, obviously so much of our content has to be approved before we can share it with somebody.
Sure.
But most of the time when I see content going through an approval cycle, it is 100-slide decks that have to be used in their entirety. And so you would never text somebody that deck. What are some of the things you have to do from a content perspective in order to make sure it's usable in an omni-channel environment?
I mean, first, and I always suggest this, is when you're starting off, have that conversation with your MLR teams. Make sure that, have that conversation. How comfortable is your organization with, different types of content? And then to say even and lean on, and instead of always, one of the things that in any organization that I've been a part of that has had a rigorous MLR process, I always meet with that team. What are you comfortable with? What is the organization comfortable with? And what do we have to have in here? And maybe start there.
Great.
And then to say, okay, so we know we need, these different disclaimers, or we need this at the start and the end and such. But that middle ground, it also depends on, again, I said earlier, we have a very short attention span, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we've all been through a death by PowerPoint, as I like to call it. So at that point, it's also sometimes less is more, and making sure that maybe these are snippets that we're giving people, but maybe also have the option for long form. They have the option of seeing the chapterized version, but they also can watch the whole thing if they want to.
Cool.
So I think it comes down to preference, but also you also have the right content also for the right channel. Again, I wouldn't suggest putting a 60-minute video on Facebook.
Sure.
But maybe you would put a 60-minute video on an HCP specific website that you would want to get that message out to.
Sure. I think back to one of the examples that I've seen. So we do a lot of social monitoring, right? We are one of the top providers of social monitoring for medical affairs, and we're listening to what KOLs, I think we're up to 60,000 KOLs. We're looking at what they say, what they listen to. And one of the examples I've seen is one particular company in medical affairs has their own US, and then each country has their own handles for LinkedIn and X and Facebook. And what's been fun to watch is they have a portal where they put long form content, right? They put slide decks, they put videos, it's all approved, it's all like very accessible, but they seem to be using these social media channel to make people aware that that portal even exists.
Mm-hmm.
And what's been neat is that it's so systematic. Like every time a new piece of material shows up in that portal, the same day tweets and posts start to come out about it, and they seem to continue for like 14 or 15 days. Well, that was all approved at the same time, because there's no way that they could post, get this new and be like, hey, I want to post today. Let me go get something approved, right? Like,
Sure.
How do you have to kind of think of it holistically from the beginning?
Yeah, you have to have, I always say to everyone, you have to have a content calendar. You have to know, here's the media, here's where I'm driving everyone to. Here's the channel that I'm utilizing. So again, if that's social, if it's a website, if it's an email, and then also then saying, okay, and you said it earlier, Scott, what is too much? When do we know if we're starting to encroach on that? I think also, I mean, I have, as the digital guy, I print out half the time an actual calendar and start writing things down on there. Oh, I should be doing it online. I don't, however. I just find it easier sometimes that way. But really, again, having that content calendar, but then also having a message matrix. Day 1, this is what we're sending out. And day 3, this is what we're sending out. And we're sending out in this order specifically, even though we know also that technically you might not have seen message 1. Now, again, we can always look back at that. We can look at the metrics. Hopefully, if it is for, let's say, an email, and we can see, okay, this HCP did not open email 1. Maybe we tee it up to them again. It really is. It's about having things planned out. The more planning that you can do, the better. We also have all been in the situation where you don't have time. You just got to get it out there. And so again, I think also knowing the tools that you can utilize to get out, get that message out faster. And that might also be part of again, talking with your MLR department and saying, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Here's the message, and see if there's even a way for you to start off with. Sometimes I've gone into these reviews and said, we're going to actually showcase this messaging first. I'm not even going to show you how we're going to utilize it this time.
Sure.
First, just get sign off on, you guys are good with this deck. You're good with the content in it. Great. Now I'll come back in a while and say, this is how it's going to look in an email. Oh, and again, remember, you already approved this.
That's a great strategy.
We're putting it into a different, into just a different format.
Love that. One more thing. I know that one of my friends called you a little while ago because they were working on their medical affairs Instagram channel. And they were kind of disappointed at first with the volume, with how many people were visiting. And I think that this is going to become more prevalent. I'm seeing more and more medical teams get their own Instagram channels, their own X handles, their own Facebook pages. What do you think? How can a team start off the right foot with their own channel versus kind of placement in other people's channels?
So I think one of the big things, and one of the big things you have to constantly do, is make sure that you do have that consistent message and you do have that branding in place. I know we want to always say, grassroots, it's a grassroots effort, if you will. But I do think you need to have that content calendar in place. You need to know the content you're putting out there, and you can't really do things last minute, especially within our industry. You can't do that. But, but just in general, it's having that in place. And also, again, knowing your audience. Is this an audience for patient engagement? Is this an audience for HCP engagement? Is it both? And if it's both, then what does that look like? You're not going to be able to be very clinical, but at the same time, also knowing the channel you're on. I doubt many people want to see something very clinical on Instagram in that case. But again, knowing and having a plan in place, and knowing, again, it goes back to who's your target audience and what do you want them to do? We want them to engage with our channel.
Absolutely.
Well, if it is a patient specific, or if it is a HCP specific Med Affairs Instagram account, we need to make sure that the content they're seeing out there is what they think it's going to be. When you start going into a whole other, I have a real problem at times when people try to take, especially something that's extremely popular online in that exact moment. Remember, it's probably going to live on forever. You're probably not just going to put it up there and then delete it. But when people put things up there and they don't think about, hey, where is this going to go? Or how is this going to look in 6 months? Is this going to be cringeworthy content, if you will?
Yeah.
We shouldn't have put it out there that way.
Yeah.
I truly think we have to think of, but it starts with having a plan in place and having that foundation in place, knowing who you're targeting, and again, the content that they want to see.
Yeah.
I always use the little movie quote, if you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. If you have the foundation the right way and you know your audience, they will engage with your content.
Absolutely.
So there's the Kevin Costner Field of Dreams for you.
There it is, right? Fantastic. And I think that as I look at medical affairs, we are seeing this transition to, it's not enough just to have great science. People have to know that science exists. Mm-hmm. And we're taking more and more accountability in medical affairs for ensuring people are aware and understand that science. And I think that's going to continue to drive people to look for more ways to engage. And even during Insight Generation, I know I was working with a team that asked hundreds of their HCPs, when you have a clinical question on this topic, where do you go? Right? Do you contact your MSL? Do you contact MedInfo? Do you research it on PubMed? You know what they said? Google. Like, that's where they start, right? And so all of this content, once it becomes accessible, that becomes a place for you to direct people towards a lot of this content. And of course, you can't put everything out there, but it's a place for them to start.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Excellent. Justin, this was so enlightening, so engaging. I know that this is going to become an increasingly important topic for medical affairs. If somebody, and by the way, for those of you who don't know Justin yet, Justin is one of the most generous people with his time, with his expertise. I've directed multiple people to just call him, and he's given them advice, even if they weren't working with him. So if you need to learn more, Justin, how can they reach you? What's the best way to learn more about you and how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can visit omnichannelconsultant.com. You can go there. That will link you right to info on me, and also there's a way there to get in touch with me. You can also, always happy to have people just email me, but I've got a crazy last name, so it's Justin at Kulovsek, KULOVSEK.com. So Justin at Kulovsek.com. But you can always check me out also at omnichannelconsultant.com as well.
We better also add Justin at omnichannelconsultant.com pretty soon.
Of course.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Justin. It was a pleasure spending the time with you. I'm so glad you were here. And everybody, if you want to learn more about an omni-channel strategy and how to leverage all these digital tools that you've heard about, you've been talking about, and just don't know how those pieces come together, contact Justin. He's a great resource, and I'm glad he's in our network. So, Justin, thank you so much.
Thanks, Scott. Really appreciate it. Thanks again.